Tomorrow, Ascension number 6 with a hype video and everything. But today, DeadInfested versus MoonHunter. Let's get into it. Infinite Velocity will open things up, and in fact, I actually don't know how often Infinite Velocity has been played in the recent incarnation. It actually hasn't received any changes just yet, and we'll probably be finalizing that in the moments to come, because as I mentioned, by the time this video goes live, I'm actually recording this on Thursday the 2nd, but it'll be going live on the 3rd, and that's 3. Anyway, DeadInfested, he's the bronze Protoss in the mid-left, and of course the mid-right electric blue Terran, that's MoonHunter. Pay no heed to the fact that DeadInfested's color is bronze. We don't have leagues based on colors here, so yeah. But I think DeadInfested is settling in as a pretty sensible, standard, fair Class 2 player. And, he could actually ascend to become Class 1 depending on his participation and placement in the upcoming Ascension tournament. And also, he's been learning a lot lately. I guess he's been playing CPL, Coach Pupil League. You can check that. I almost said Coach Pro League because I'm used to PL meaning Pro League in that kind of context. As opposed to Poland, which everybody knows it's actually Coach Poland. But yeah, anyway, the CPL has been undergoing at the same time, and so it's really cool to see that players can do both. And he said that actually going back and forth between playing this and playing Starcraft 1 has helped him a lot, in general, be a better RTS player. So a little word to the wise there for anybody who's thinking that this game, playing this, will ruin them for Brood War. Apparently not. DeadInfested says he's better because of playing CPL and because of playing CMBW. So I guess both of those things start with C. Maybe that's the idea. Anyway, we have a forward stockade coming up, and one in the back as well, perhaps to not arouse suspicion. When DeadInfested scouts this, I assume he'll think, oh, there's probably some kind of, fast expansions. Let me check the back. Oh, there's nothing there. So I'm guessing that's what he's going to do. We'll see what he ends up doing. He's usually pretty active. I've been playing a lot of matches with DeadInfested, or against him, I suppose, and mostly PvP matches, and I don't really know what the hell I'm doing as Protoss. Whereas, my Zerg usually does a pretty good job against him, but all right, let's see what MoonHunter has. Now, MoonHunter, his favorite unit is the Maverick. That's what he told me anyway. So he does have one of those. He's kind of like the new Benno. We already said that earlier when he featured and defeated Hamster with a ridiculous cheese. He will be throwing down an anchor. The Dracodon is a little bit a ways away. So I think they'll probably finish it around the same time, and he should be able to get the Maverick in there. However, cliff advantage definitely favors the Dracodon, so he's going to need to lift that anchor and put it down pretty much right there. He does have a third Maverick coming with a fourth in the queue, and the Scribe is just going to continue tickling with one Maverick being built at home to deal with that threat. Obviously, DeadInfested did scout the expansion and knows, okay, there's nothing here, so maybe he took another expansion somewhere else, or maybe I'm being cheesed, but his Dracodon is idling. And this is something that I've tried to coach DeadInfested on, is when you have this Dracodon, right, it is the most powerful, early game unit you can really see at Tier 1, again, as your first unit. It's kind of the most powerful unit you can make, right? So here we go. Let's see what happens. He's unloading a couple of Mavericks so he can fight and get his anchor online. He's lost one Maverick. He hasn't landed it. You can actually enter it while it's landing, so that was a little bit of a misplay from MoonHunter. But he will get 2 of them out, and he can continue to streamline the more of them in. However, his Mason is dangerously low, so he should try to do like load micro, where you can select the anchor, right? And you can issue the load order onto the Mason. Unfortunately, he doesn't do it there. And so he's going to try to go in for a stim. He could have targeted the low HP one, but with only 3 Mavericks, this is not going to go super well for him. He does manage to get 2 of them, bruised though they may be, into the anchor, and additional Mavericks are streaming in. This Scribe is still alive, so that could be an opportunity for, if DeadInfested wants to do something there. And the other thing is that these Atlases burn down at the 4-minute mark. So this map by the Beaver 99 has a Nidus connecting the 2 locations. I kind of glossed over that because, we see a different sort of cheese or early aggro play happening. But at this point, I think the micro has been good enough. Stim is going to go, but it's not focusing down a low HP one, instead creating a different low HP one. So that's going to do it for the early aggression. And it's not like you're safe behind this because of the big map distance, because now the Niduses are available. Now again, like I said earlier, I have no idea if these players are familiar with this mechanic. I don't know if they're aware of this sort of thing. So it would be really funny if, the Dracodons start rallying over the Nidus. Actually, I just had a thought. I wonder if the stockade could perfectly fit over the Nidus so you couldn't click it. That could be a huge brain strategy, but it doesn't seem like MoonHunter's even aware of it. So that's okay. That was something that I was just thinking. He's actually just going to land it in the base and then maybe go for some Hurricanes or maybe more Mavericks. Could be a thing. He does have a Cyprian and 2 Mavericks in this anchor, which he should probably scoot a little bit closer to that ramp, but no big deal. A Fulcrum coming online, that's going to help him deal with the gateway units. It is a 2-gate, 1-base build, whereas the Ministry is being erected here by MoonHunter in the top right. And his Stockade is even going to lift off and probably serve as a scout/denial tool for the back base, and that is going to be pretty reasonable. We have some... they're hanging out. They're inspecting the rocks. You know, this happens all the time in Brood War. Actually, something that we've been made aware of recently and that I've personally experienced is when you have units selected across the map and you right-click in between the selection, they will oftentimes just go somewhere completely differently. It's sort of like a built-in anti-noob feature where it's like, oh, you were trying to move your army across the entire map, but they're in different places. Maybe you should split them into different control groups to make them work properly. It's just, obviously, that's stupid. But, you know, a man can dream. By the way, I'm pretty sure the sprite doodads are indexed for this palette. So, like, I made it so that a bunch of the doodad sprites, like the trees and the rocks and stuff, actually can be placed no matter what, like, in any tile set. So it's a little puzzling that those aren't there, but maybe Beaver didn't know that. Either way, we will indeed have the anchor being under attack by multiple Dracodons. Not a very good spot for this situation for MoonHunter, but he does have more Mavericks stimming out. He's going to go ahead and pull the boys off the line. Relatively even worker counts at the start of this, but as they stray further and further from the anchor and further from the ranged fire support, the Masons are indeed going to have their numbers thinned. And the Dracodons are kind of funny in that way because they can pretty much evenly range everything, so this isn't too consequential for them. However, only 2 Masons have actually died so far. I guess maybe there could be more than that. There's a third, but it might have actually been 4. Yeah, there was 3 corpses down here. He's having a really hard time evicting this last man. And he is not building any units out of these structures either, so he's probably going to lose a couple more. You know, there's additional Mason production happening over there. And meanwhile, there is this happening as well, so MoonHunter's last outpost on the other side of the map is falling in significance. It does feel like he should... Oh, I guess he did unload that anchor. It feels like maybe the anchors themselves should be what's moved. But finally, we will see... Unfortunately, the Cyprian dies as well. But finally, we will see that last Dracodon die. When there's enough micro, right? Actually, Hupsaya showed me this earlier. Yesterday, I played some 1v1s against him to help blood him in the game. And it was really cool to see because he's a Starcraft 2 Grandmaster player. He's pretty reasonable at micro. And so he was stutter-stepping the fuck out of my Harakans when I tried to cheese him with an Ahmed-only challenge. And I did not succeed, but, you know... you could say that I was pretending to be Euthermal for a game. Stargate coming in as they follow up for DeadInfested. He does have his expansion up, but there's no workers there just yet. He will fix that issue momentarily. He does have a single worker, in fact, just to make a liar out of me. And at this point, yeah, the worker count is favoring DeadInfested, particularly since 2 of the 22 here for MoonHunter are just sort of idling, and one of them is repairing. So hopefully MoonHunter is going to see that. No idle worker button. That was another thing Hupsaya said to me. Yeah, hey, if you guys want entertaining StarCraft 2 gameplay, and you're tired of watching Euthermal for some reason, or he's not your cup of tea, you can take a look at Hupsaya. He's a bit eclectic. He's kind of like me, but he turns like the absurdist humor up a little bit more, whereas usually in these casts I'm trying to be a little bit more formal. In some ways, anyway. I mean, I talk about absurdist humor. Wait till you guys see the hype video that I'm making for this. So a double Stargate production coming out for DeadInfested. And of course, look at this. We've got the 6 Dracodons moving in. They're not going to have as much efficacy this time around, although I don't think Cyclops are a good choice here. There was some funny back and forth where people were like, yeah, Cyclops are terrible, and then I had a thumbnail called Cyclops are good for one of the recent casts. You can check those out. Yeah, so just sort of trying to charge on, barrel on through, but he's already lost 1 and shields on most of these. That's the one thing that is kind of good about Cyclops, and if there was a Mason pull to keep them in that area, that definitely would have helped. But at this point, yeah, I think a Goliath would have been better, or more Cyprians or Harakans to try to hold the front, because this kind of thing can absolutely happen, right? Especially since it's a wider ramp. So I think this might actually be the death blow here for MoonHunter. He doesn't really have that much production. He's losing the workers, and he didn't really have that many to begin with. He's going to try to go for an evacuation. But I think this is desperation. There's a star pad that was made, but nothing was made out of it just yet. He's surrounding one of the Dracodons. He will kill it. He will eat it with the Masons, but there's still 4 alive. Wounded though they may be, again, this is super bruised. Like, if there was an additional anchor, if anything was here to block the ground paths, I think he would have held just fine. But that can be the margin here, especially when you're already behind from the earlier engagements. And we are seeing the initial experience. Like, it's funny that DeadInfested went for Protoss, because unironically, like, Protoss is a little bit easier to get accustomed to the project with once you figure out the fact that you can build anything at the beginning. It sounds like it's a OP, but it's actually also a bit of a curse for you because now you've got this choice paralysis where you don't really know what to do. And it looks like the Stargate is going to be the answer. We have a Gladius coming. That's not going to be too consequential, but the Exemplars will deal a lot more damage. And so you can expect that to seal the deal if the GG has not already been called. I definitely think that the anchors could have been shuffled a little bit more, especially in that really prolonged assault with that one Drakodin killing a bunch of Masons in the early game. The Mason pull in this attack could have also saved a lot because it would have just blockaded them in while the Cyclops and Cyprians were doing their job. And, you know, he's playing hopscotch right now, but, like, these Drakodins can just sort of move around, right? And the Cyclops is not going to be super effective at dealing with this. And here comes a Gladius. Just a salt in the wound. He does have a single Wraith coming over here, but there's already a Warden in place, so that's probably that will probably be the actual GG moment. Like, oh shit, you've got a Warden. Now, as long as he sits over here, it's funny. I don't know if DeadInfested is aware of this, but he can just move a Scribe over to decloak the Wraith, and then the Warden will take care of it. It doesn't seem like that's something that he's paying too much attention to right now. Another Stockade being rebuilt. This anchor now trying to deal with the. Oh, he's got no production left. Yeah, this is definitely going to be GG. MoonHunter is a resilient lad. He's doing his best, but right now he's going to have to be forced to type GG. And there he goes. The first game going the way of DeadInfested. And hey, we have time. We can cast another one. So let's see what happens in game number 2. A little word to the wise here as we get started with game 2 between DeadInfested and MoonHunter on Otherworld. MoonHunter, the beige Terran against the midnight green Protoss of DeadInfested, and that is top right versus bottom right. Now, interestingly enough, replays have sizes, right? File sizes. And those file sizes kind of determine the approximate, like, saturation of actions, basically, because it has to serialize actions that the players do, right? So this is all technological gobbledygook, but the thrust of it is I can kind of guesstimate how long a replay is going to be based on the size of the replay. And so that's usually what I end up using. Now, it's not precise enough to give me, like, exact specifications. Like, I know, oh, if it's like 100 kilobytes, it's always going to be 10 minutes or something like that. It's not as clean because it's depending on actions, and maybe you have somebody who spams like me or whatever. Meanwhile, the forward 2 racks is happening and instantly has to get canceled because of the scout. That's unfortunate. MoonHunter was not able to have his cake and eat it too. On this map, this is the scout path. So if you were to build it over here, you'd be safe. But building it right there on the scout path, like, that's one of the 2 available scout paths, right? You could have also tried to build it somewhere over here in the right-hand side, and maybe that would have worked better because, like, usually the default scout path is going to be this area. So Otherworld has received changes. There is actually an Otherworld. I guess we can reveal the entire map to show that. We have these bases over here, and obviously the little hopscotch road of the various flagstones and the basilica and all this other stuff. So yeah, and you know, this has also been scooched a little bit forward to the right so you can more easily wall this off and defend it. Meanwhile, this area is still as annoying as ever. There's a stockade coming and a gateway coming. And now we'll go ahead and unreveal the entire map and see what our players want to go after. Eventually, I do want to be able to, like, click the names and, like, toggle the vision of those players, although it remains to be seen if we can easily fix the bugs that are even present on the remastered version that you may be aware of if you watch, like, Artosis Cast or anything like that, or even in the ASL, where they'll sometimes show, hey, a player is, like, they see this thing, but actually they don't see that thing. And, like, Artosis has to come in and say, yeah, he doesn't actually see the creep there, so he doesn't know that there's a hatchery there. Like, that happened in, I think it might have been the semifinals. It was some sulky match that I remember seeing. But it could have even been the finals. Anyway, spoilers for ASL, of course. Classic move. I did that on stream the other day where I was like, I had left it on, like, the last point. You know, YouTube resumes your upload, right? And like, it resumes your viewing experience from the time code that you last saw. And I had closed the tab when Sulky was kissing the trophy. So it's like, oh yeah, by the way, if you haven't watched this already, spoilers. But that, you know, it's like been weeks now, I think, or a week. I don't think there's too much crossover there. Anyway, Fulcrum coming as the follow-up here. It looks like it's going to be like Goliath Cleric or something like that. That's been a staple. And we have a 3-gate 1-base strat from DeadInfested. This is really interesting. So when I played against DeadInfested, I mean, I was doing a lot of PvP practice as opposed to PvT. But it was really cool that DeadInfested is showing this now because, like, in the past, he would always go macro toss. He would go 1-gate expand or, you know, lattice expand or even Nexus first sometimes on 4-spawn maps. And it's, you know, somewhat risky, but it's a possibility. You can make that happen. And I'm not 100% sure, you know, whether that's something that, like, I just don't know. I don't know if it's super possible in that sense. Here we go. The Dracodon is coming. But it's cool to see him move forward and go for like a Dracodon first. This is sort of the kind of stuff that I was saying. Like, yeah, you should absolutely try to, be aggro in the early game. And you should try to, use your military advantage since you do have that. And in this case, you caught him trying to scout. You caught him trying to do some proxies. And now you've caught him in the middle of a tech transition where he went for a light amount of military and now is going for a Goliath. And the Goliath will be able to beat this. No worries there. I think maybe that Maverick could have stayed alive for like one extra shot. But yeah, the Goliath always defeats a Dracodon in a one-on-one fight. Doubly so if there's a Cleric healing it. So good luck there. And the Goliath is being pathed and piloted in a strange location, but don't worry. By the way, you can put Goliaths in anchors. I don't know if people know that. It depends as a Terran player, and he signed up for Ascension 6 for the second slot, and he didn't know that until today when we were spectating some matches between a newcomer Newt and Scholar, who is being more active and has signed up as a ringer in case somebody is a no-show. Pretty cool stuff. We're getting to the point now, guys, where like even just today in this morning, like 4 new people joined, and one of them was Newt, and he's already started playing and stuff, and like we're getting to the point where we're going to actually need to have qualifiers for Ascension in the future, like Ascension 7 in December. If we, I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing one last tournament for the end of the year. And if we do something like that, we are going to need to have qualifications happen. And those are probably going to be like, okay, maybe I do some castovers out of those matches, but I'm probably not going to do like, exhaustive stuff. So I think if you make it to playoffs, you'll automatically receive an invite, which leaves 4 spots for the newcomer qualifier. So we have 6 Dracodons. One of the Goliaths does get picked off. We have a Cyclops coming to probably just to do a lot of spread damage to the shields. It's not a bad theory, but you do need a lot of Cyclops and something ideally to frontline for them. I mean, even if you just get like 3 or 4 Cyclops with a Goliath stack, it can be really good at like stopping the micro backwards to get flash shielding again, since the damage will spread out pretty reasonably. It's like within 2 range or whatever, which is more than it probably sounds. So absolutely something that can be pretty good. Obviously, I will forever be a staunch Cyclops defender, just like Luciferius is a staunch Paladin defender. But don't worry. Don't worry, it's totally not biased, guys. I mean, if I was really biased, I would just buff them. But I actually unironically think they can be pretty good right now. So, MoonHunter will go ahead and drop a treasury at this base. This is kind of treasury bait in a way, it's pretty opportune for that. We do have a stack of 12 Dracodons, by the way. That should just... I mean, I think he could just pull the trigger, but, he's sort of testing it out. He's now getting his natural expansion. Workers are dead even. We have more mech being produced. A couple more... well, he's actually already got 5-6 clerics, although one of them is sort of off in the wilderness there. I would love to see, like, a second anchor or something just to insulate versus, like, a mass gate hold. But unfortunately for MoonHunter, he's kind of in the dark here. He doesn't have any scouting. He doesn't have any real knowledge of what's going on. And the waters are tested, but it looks like MoonHunter either has him on hold position or just issued a stop order after that. This is going to be a lot of units that try to barrel up through. And again, the Cyclops can be really good here. But ultimately, this is going to come down to focus fire on both teams. And it looks like the Dracodons are getting pretty wounded, but the Cyclops are now getting to the point where they are actually going to die. And we don't have any more units coming out of these Fulcrums, right? We have a Shaman coming, but there's not going to be any military here. And it feels like if the Masons are pulled here, maybe he can make a turnaround on this spot. He's got 5 Clerics healing that one Cyclops, but it wasn't quite enough to get the other one done. And here comes the Shaman just to get bopped as well. GG is going to be called, but that was actually closer than it looked. I think, again, if he has a couple more Cyclops to get a critical mass, or if he has a couple more Goliaths just to tank, or maybe a second anchor so that they, can't just barrel up the ramp. MoonHunter is learning in that respect. He's figuring stuff out. All right, let's do one more game because that one was so fast. We'll go on to game 3, and there's actually only one game left, so we'll finish off that series in a separate video. Stay tuned. And we're going to Sideshow for game numero dos. Tres. And we have DeadInfested, the Midnight Green. Once again, Protoss in the bottom right. The yellow Terran in the top left is MoonHunter. Now, I've been slowly collecting everybody's information to put on the hype video, their favorite unit, their country of origin if they want to show that, and their background music, sort of similar to ASL, right? So that's going to be, there's going to be some gravitas, some epic to this one. I don't know if I'll be able to wrangle it such that we have player introductions in the same way. I think it'll just end up being for the hype video, but maybe for the next tournament I'll be able to or maybe even for playoffs of Ascension 6 I'll be able to wrangle it so I have like some OBS scene that I use with Stream Deck or something that pops up like a short video that has their background theme and maybe some information about the player, or maybe it would just be there wouldn't be any narration because like will be analyzing, right? And so yeah, it'll probably be something like that, very similar in some ways to the way that we have the ASL broadcast with, like, if you watch the Taste Hostess casts, they'll talk about the player as the background music is playing, as the sort of profile and their stats and stuff are playing. I want to add production value to Ascension tournaments, and we'll see what I can do. So we already see MoonHunter is cutting some workers a little bit to get this early Fulcrum out. I kind of feel like he doesn't need 3 workers on gas for this, because you kind of only need the 2. But fast Fulcrum is a little bit more viable. I think this is before I buffed the training time, or the construction time of it. It's 5 seconds cheaper now in that respect, 5 seconds faster. Meanwhile, a Mason will go ahead and get subbed out, so it's good to see that MoonHunter is aware of things that you can do to try to not get bullied by scribes. Although at this point, it's not really being optimally moved. And this is another thing, right? StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, neither of them have this. CMBW has this. The Masons will move in a predictable fashion. That's more skill testing for both sides, really, than... Oh, he didn't finish it. How unfortunate. There you go. Now it's done. That guy just had to put the... He had to slap on the, like, certificate of functionality or whatever onto the structure, and then it could be opened up. And he had to cut the tape on the grand opening. It's pretty funny. All right, we have a Cyclops first. That's kind of interesting. Now, he should have scouted the first gateway. I didn't catch whether or not he scouted the second, but it's kind of been a tried and true method so far where DeadInfested will go for this 2-gate play. And, it's something to point out is people always want their glory. They always want to see their wins casted. They always want to see their names in the lights, so to speak, as players, right? Maybe not always, but by and large, that does happen. And that's great. But it should be noted here that... I don't know, man. You can get found out. Your strategies can get downloaded. Your competitors, Shambler and 3Crow, will watch this video, DeadInfested. And I guess the same for MoonHunter's competitors, Hamster and Mystery Meat. The odds are they will take a look at what footage is available and what analysis has been made. I was actually thinking I should also start charging for, scouting reports. People can send me, if you coffee me, $3 or something. I will do a scouting report on your opponent. Tell you all about their weaknesses. That would be pretty goofy. I mean, I might do that just as content in general, but it would feel a little rude to whoever's the first victim of that scouting report tactic. That they would probably feel a little bit aggrieved. Now, we do have a pretty good Cyclops stack coming out here. So MoonHunter is keeping the faith. He thinks that Cyclops are pretty legit. Now, the Cyclops has no armor pen, so it will only be dealing 8 damage with its primary shot and then 8 subsequent damage with the secondary shot to the Dracodons. But if he can get enough of them on this ramp, and he's got a Goliath coming as well for more consistent damage, which it does have 2 armor pen. Oh, it looks like he's going to pop on down here, but I think 5 Cyclops will beat 2 Dracodons if they end up coinciding here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, instantaneous shields. The micro is being forced out. Ooh, look how fast they fall. And it looks like he might trade... Yeah, he's going to trade 1 Cyclops for that, which honestly, with a little bit of better micro from both sides, I think it probably would have happened anyway. But in that particular case, he could have moved it backwards or something a little bit faster. Now, 2 of his Cyclops are split in one way, and 2 of them are split the other, which is probably unintentional. But in a way, it's kind of brilliant because you've got the mobility advantage versus the Dracodon. You've got the now you essentially are isolating the most sensible ground paths. Technically, there are additional ones you can take along the very extremities of the map. So you now know, okay, he's going to come in with something. So MoonHunter's already forced a Warden with the early aggression. Double Rogue Gallery. Barguests are going to fall pretty quickly to this sort of thing. There is a second Dracodon, but actually, funnily enough, there's only 1 Dracodon out and only 1 more coming. I mean, no, actually, it's an Ecclesias coming. This Cyclops push could definitely catch DeadInfested by surprise. A Goliath is almost here as well, and as long as he pulls away from that Warden, he should be okay. Now, these Cyclops are very, very low. And so I think they'll just end up getting eliminated there. But, that was a pretty dangerous position to be in. If he pulls the Cyclops back to the left, maybe circumvents it, goes all the way around to try to attack the Scribes, he might get a couple kills. He might at least, sow some discontent and confuse stuff while the Goliath can also sort of rally all the way around and join them. With some better army pathing there, I feel like he absolutely could have gotten even more of an advantage. So, yeah, apparently Cyclops really are good, even versus Protoss. Who would have thought? Now, obviously, you do need a pretty high number of them. Now, the other question is, will there be any sort of anti-air defenses here? Because the Barguest is on the way, and it doesn't get proximity decloaked anyway. So, this Cyclops isn't going to do anything to it. In fact, there's more Barguests coming out as a follow-up. We have more Goliaths on the way. They're on their way out. Cyclops in the queue, but I think they're going to leave the base as the Barguests arrive. So, I mean, even 2 Cyclops will deal with 3 Barghest. It's not really that big of a deal. But they can absolutely catch you by surprise. They're much slower moving than the other air units that are available, like the Vassal and stuff, but they obviously are cloaked. So that is a pretty big advantage for them. Now, I think DeadInfested, he's obviously going to shut down this Mason that's trying to build the Ministry, but I almost feel like that's fine. Like, as long as there's no immediate overreaction, then, you know, we're kind of in the clear there. We got more Barghest coming, but that's a lot of the resources spent on that, right? He's even queued 2 more. He's got nothing out of his gateways. He's just got double Draken and Ecclesiast. Like, this mech army can actually push his shit in if he's not careful. Meanwhile, we do say 1 Watchdog has been erected. We have the Barghests that are sitting on top of the Fulcrums. As soon as that's revealed, I feel like that's going to be something where the Cyclops back at home can definitely help out. 1 Barghest dies for no gain. Doesn't look like they killed a single thing. And we've got 2 more. So we're going to have a total of 6. Like, at some point, they will overpower the Watchdog. So it's a little bit spooky there. But he still is keeping Cyclops at home. He's adding more Watchdogs in general. His Ministry is done. So he's going to be up a base versus Protoss, which is kind of unheard of for Terran. And yeah, I think, honestly... Oh, I don't know what he's looking for. He's not going to be able to catch them. He can't proximity decloak them like Terran units do. So this Watchdog is not long for this world. We'll see if that ends up getting canceled, but I don't think it will. Nope, just going to get burned down. 100 minerals down the drain. Now, MoonHunter is a little bit low on money, but, you know, he's even in workers, but up a base, in theory, and he can start going past his opponent in worker count now that he's got multiple bases, right? I really want to see when this move out is coming. He's giving his opponent time to strengthen his ground force back at home. So I don't think that we're going to see an actual commitment here, or if we do, it would end up being kind of disastrous now. And the Barghests are just going to start evaporating here. Oh, God. Oh, it's painful. Oh, brutal. All right, well, that was like, what, 5 Barghests dead for 3 Cyclops? Now, the number is, the critical mass is significantly reduced by that. He's only going to have 5 when those next 2 join the fray. We have 2 more coming as well. But I'm not even sure that you can realistically, like, attack into the space now. You got double Watchdog. You're going to have 1 on top of the Fulcrums. This is kind of like fighting Mutas or something, but they're really slow and permacloaked and have multi-target. An attempted move out here by the ground army for DeadInfested is going to get punished, although the units were kind of split up in that choke. So now he can just charge on over here and force a cancel on the Nexus. That is really, really good for MoonHunter. He does need to fall back because he is getting abused by that cliff. And he has no healing over in this neck of the woods either. So he's just going to park his mechs in this general vicinity as they try to path around the minerals. 7 Barghests coming in, but there's a Watchdog here. And there are also the Cyclops, which are responding to the threat of that. There's no star pad and no stockade, so I don't think there's going to be any detection. The Fulcrum is the one tier 1 structure where there is no option for detection. Now, the Lodestone is coming in for permanent detection, and obviously the Cyclops are going to be here to shut down any aggression for the future. We have 2 Goliaths coming as well. Those are just about to pop. I also want to see when the tech comes. Like, DeadInfested is floating a lot of minerals. He's got Charlatans. He's got Vagrants coming. He can definitely evict the mech squad over here, especially since the low HP Goliath is kind of off to the side. And so, yeah, it's going to be killed first. Now, here comes the hallucination. This basically deals a 1.5x multiplier on damage. But the Charlatans, one of them did already get focused down. So not super good there for DeadInfested to lose that one. It's a pretty heavy gas investment. And he's still got 1,200 minerals, so he really needs to try to drop, I would say, multiple bases at this point, just based on the money he's got. Or at least more production structures. Maybe he can start banging out, like, 2-4 extra gateways and just start going for heavy melee and stuff. An anchor being put down, a star pad being put down. The lodestone's here. It's not garrisoned, but it doesn't need to be, right? It's got pretty reasonable sight range of, 10. 10 sight range is pretty based, so definitely something to think about. I wonder if maybe sight range should just be there as a stat by default. It seems kind of important, so it might be something that I should just enable on the tooltip by default instead of having it require you to hold shift to see. Anyway, Warden coming in the mineral line. A little bit paranoid about an air transition. I don't know that he would have clocked the star pad. His Barghest went back home. He's got 7 of them still. So they haven't really engaged with any additional fights after the initial worker harassment. And yeah, DeadInfested is behind in workers, but he is setting up an expansion. He has pretty powerful units. I mean, there's a pretty powerful mech army here as well. The Thin Ramp and Thin Choke are going to be a little bit awkward for both parties to get into, but it looks like MoonHunter is going to make it a little bit easier on DeadInfested by charging out himself and maybe taking some aggression. Now, as Terran, you do want to try to hold this this ramp if you want to take your third. At least that's one of the options here. We'll have to wait and see how that one transpires as More Vagrants are joining the fray. Another pylon down there just for some build space. Anseal out for detection. This is really, really solid as far as a composition goes. Although the Cyclops leading the charge is not really what you want. The Anseal needs to be pulled back. Now the Barghest are revealed. The Anseal is just going to charge into its own death. And unfortunately, since most of the crowd control just went the way of the Dodo there pretty early on, it doesn't really look like he got any kills. He didn't even confirm any kills on the Vagrants, so that's a very steep loss. He only has one Cyclops in that anchor, so he can add another one. He's queued up a bunch of Mavericks to try to soften the blow, and another Anseal is on the way to maybe hold out. I would like to see more anchors as well being dropped. We have another stockade happening. Yeah, just running right on past. We do have a Charlatan hallucinating on the anchor, which causes even more damage. The Goliaths are just going to get focused down here, and unfortunately, despite a really excellent early game, MoonHunter did overstep his bounds by trying to charge out against a guy who, by the circumstances of the game, could not do anything but make units. He couldn't expand. He couldn't really tech up since he didn't have the income for it. So all he had was essentially tier 1 units, plus a little bit of tier 2 merged in with the Charlatans, right? So MoonHunter will indeed concede, and that will be a 3-0 start for DeadInfested. We'll have to see if MoonHunter can come back in the final part of this 2-part series where we go into the next game. But despite that, I think MoonHunter is learning the versus Protoss sort of paradigm. I'm not going to give him a chance against DeadInfested Mystery Meat per se, but I think he, as he gets more practice versus DeadInfested, I think that's going to do him well. And he was just practicing against Hamster's Zerg moments ago, which is pretty legit as of the time of recording. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And hey, we're growing every day. We got like 4 people in the door just today. We got loads of people coming in on the daily. And so, well, maybe not loads, but we got a small trickle. And that trickle is getting bigger by the day and by the week. So if you want to get in on this, you want to start playing some matches and you haven't yet, you're thinking the water's a little cold or something. Nah, bro. Nah. We got lots of people warming it up for you. So come on in. Ignore the pee in the water, obviously, and we'll see you guys around for more casts. Remember, tournament soon, and we're just going to keep bumping this thing up. So see you soon.